This is Gabriela Ortiz for the Stata YouTube channel. I'd like to show you how you can work with multiple datasets in memory in Stata 16. With the new frame suite of commands, you can simultaneously load multiple datasets in memory, storing each dataset in a frame. This means you can easily multitask, switching from one dataset to another. You can load separate but related datasets and access values in one dataset while working with another. You can even use a separate dataset in memory to store results from a simulation. In Stata, each dataset in memory is stored in a frame. You can load many datasets simultaneously, and you can easily work in one frame, switch to another frame, work with those data, and then switch back to the first. A frame prefix allows you to run Stata commands on any dataset in memory, meaning you can make changes to a dataset without having to switch frames. When you have datasets in two frames that are related, say one has data on individuals in different counties across the US, and another has county-level demographic data, you can link the datasets. This allows you to access values of variables in one dataset while working in another, and to copy data from one frame to another. I'll show you a brief example of how you can work with multiple datasets in memory. I've loaded a dataset into Stata that contains information on the attendance for special events held throughout New York City. This data was made available by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. When you first launch Stata, the frame is named Default, so the events dataset is loaded in the default frame. To see a list of the current frames, you can go to Data and click on Frames Manager. Here you'll see that I only have one frame, the default, and I'm actually going to rename this frame to match the dataset that it contains. So I'll click on Rename and call this Events. So now I can close out of here. And you'll see that this is the command that I could have typed, frame rename. So the events dataset includes information on the type of location, the day of the week the event is held on, and the date of the event. I want to fit a model for event attendance, but I want to account for the weather. Now, I don't have that information here, but I do have another dataset made available by the National Centers for Environmental Information that records the average temperature and whether there was any rain on a given date. I'm going to load that dataset into another frame and then link the two frames to access the weather information in this events dataset. So to do that, I'll go back to the Frames Manager and I'll click on Create, and I'll create a new frame called Weather. And then I'll make that weather frame my current frame. So these are the commands that I could have typed, frame create and frame change. Now that I've switched over to the weather frame, I'm going to load the weather dataset, and then I'll list a couple of the observations. Notice that in this dataset, we only have one observation per date. Now, instead of changing frames to perform a certain task, I can issue commands using data from another frame by simply using the frame prefix. If I switch back to the events frame, and note that I could have typed frame change to switch back to the events frame, I can now describe the data in the weather frame by simply typing frame weather and then describe. And this is the precipitation variable I want to use with my other dataset, so I'll need to create a link between the two frames. I can do this by typing frlink, and then because the events dataset has several observations per date and weather only has one, I'll specify a many-to-one link. Now you'll note that this is similar to merge, and with frlink, you can specify either a many-to-one or a one-to-one link. Then I'll specify the date variable, which indicates how the observations in the events frame should be linked to the observations in the weather frame. And last, I'll specify the weather frame. You may have noticed that a new variable was created called weather. This is referred to as the link variable, and it contains the information needed for the link. Now that I have linked the datasets, I can access values of the variables or copy variables over from the weather frame. For example, I'll use the frval function to access the values stored in the precipitation variable to create a new variable in the current frame. And to do that, I'll click on Data, Create or Change Data, and Create New Variable. And I'll simply call this variable rained because it will indicate whether or not there was precipitation on a given date. And then I'll type frval, weather, and the precip variable. Then I'll click OK. And here I see the command that I could have used to create that variable. Now I can also copy variables from the weather frame to the current frame by using frget. So let's copy over the average temperature variable by typing frget average temp and then specifying the link variable, which is weather. Now I can use either variable, rained or average temp, in my model for event attendance. So this is how you can work with multiple datasets in memory with Stata. I only worked with 2 frames, but you can create many frames in memory at once. Aside from accessing data between datasets, you might also use frames to record statistics gathered from simulations or simply to multitask. If you would like to learn more about working with multiple datasets in memory, you can visit our website at stata.com. Thank you for watching.